So here we are for another unboxing, but this one is a little bit special. This is the Kyosho Mad Van VE, and it is absolutely stunning. Believe it or not, this is actually the first Kyosho RC on the channel, but it is not the first Kyosho that I've ever owned. I've actually had other Kyosho vehicles in the past, but when I saw this one, I just had to have it. Kyosho has actually done a really good job with this truck. There's a lot of little beefed up upgrades that they've done from the previous brushed version that they used to have. So now being brushless, it just has that much more power and it looks absolutely stunning. So let's get the box out of the way and see what this truck is all about. So with everything out of the box, this is what you're going to see. You're going to get the truck fully assembled and ready to go. You're going to see your radio over here, which is going to need 4 AA's for it to work. Of course, batteries are not included with this kit, and you get a bag with a whole bunch of stuff in it. So we'll go through this as quickly as possible. There is a rear spoiler that you'll need to cut out and install on the truck if you want to do that. They give you the hardware for it as well. So I'm going to leave mine off, but it's kind of nice that they've actually included one if you choose to use it. There's also a rear bumper piece which can be used to replace the wheelie bar that's on the back of the truck. I'll explain in a little bit more detail how this sort of goes on there as we go through this unboxing. There's also a turnbuckle spanner, which is actually a really cool thing to include on a kit like this. These are actually worth their weight in gold, and I'll definitely be keeping this one in my toolbox going forward. A very nice tool to have included in this sort of kit. There's also some spare parts in here. You'll see some spare shock pistons in there. There's some spare little washers, shock rod ends, preload spacers, a couple of servo horns are in there as well. You know, all that sort of thing. So really cool to have a little bag with some spares included. And then last but not least, there are 2 more bags in here, if I can get them out. One is a bind plug, which you technically shouldn't need right off the bat. The radio should already be pre-bound to the truck. But in case you need to rebind it, they're giving you a bind plug. And then there's also a bag which unfortunately has been cut for some reason. I don't know how that's been cut because I didn't slice anything in there. But they've got some Allen keys in there as well to help you work on the van. So really cool that they've included those. Now for some paperwork, which I know you all like to read and flick through. Get rid of the bag. Now this is going to be a little bit harder to see because these are white stickers on a white background, but hopefully you can see some of the stickers that are on there, and you can actually peel these off and decorate the truck a little bit if you want to do that. So really cool that they've included a whole massive sticker sheet for you to customize the look of your van. Now there's some loose papers in here. This first one I don't really know what it's about, so we're going to leave that off. This is kind of giving you a little bit of an instruction on how to install the rear spoiler, and there's also some information there regarding the servo. And then over here, this is just a single sheet. It's just talking about the slipper clutch, input gear, that type of thing. So they've included that in there. And then last but not least, we have the all-important user manual. Now the user manual is written in a few different languages, but it does have very relevant information here. You got part numbers and all sorts of things, exploded views that you can go through, and you know, obviously pick out parts, help you work on the car, information on how to set up the radio, all of that type of stuff, steerings, calibrating ESCs, the usual stuff that you're going to find in the manual. Everything is in here, quite thick, really good bedtime reading. I suggest everybody that is fairly new to the hobby to read through that, and that is everything that you are going to get out of the box. Okay, so let's start this one off with the radio. As I said, you're going to need 4 AA's to get this guy going, which are not included in the kit. You'll see that it also has a really nice red rubber grip on the back here, which makes it really comfortable to hold in the hand. It's not a very thin handle, so if you do have, you know, small kids or something like that, they might struggle a little bit with you know, gripping the radio properly, but yeah, for adults you shouldn't really have too much of an issue. The trigger itself is a little bit light for my liking, but it's not too bad. It actually, you know, you can get used to that. It actually feels pretty good. There is a toggle switch here, which I don't believe is connected to anything at the moment, so you might find that useful later on down the line, but at the moment it's not connected to anything. And then the wheel, you'll notice that it's on a bit of an angle. Now this is done on purpose so that when you are obviously holding the radio, both of your wrists are actually in a natural position. Now it's kind of hard to kind of demonstrate this on camera, but you can sort of see that my wrist here is actually fairly straight. You don't have this kink, you know, when you're actually holding the wheel. Now, this is a very minor thing. It's probably not going to be so much like this isn't revolutionary or anything like that. It's not like it's going to be a whole bunch of people that are going to all of a sudden go, wow, I really need to have this radio because of this. It's just a nice feature to have, and I can see where they went with it, and I think you know, it might help some of you out there if you've had a, I don't know, pre-existing injury on your wrist or something like that, so that might come in handy. The on and off switch is back here, just there, and then we've got a whole bunch of dials and everything up the top here. So starting at the top, we have throttle trim, we have steering trim, we have steering dual rates over here. We have throttle EPA for both forward and reverse. So that's what these dials here are. So you can adjust the top speed of the car going forward and reverse by using those. And you have throttle and steering reverse switches down here as well, which you really shouldn't need to touch unless of course you're turning the car to the right and it's going to the left, or you're pulling the trigger to go forward and the thing's shooting off in reverse. That's when you sort of need to play around with those. But out of the factory, they should be, and I repeat, they should be set correctly, so you shouldn't need to do anything there. And that's it for the radio. So let's move on to the truck, because there is quite a bit to cover off with this guy. Of course, the body is one of the main features of this truck, because it just looks absolutely gorgeous. They did a fantastic job with this. The color, as much as I'm going to try and show the color on screen, honestly, when you see this in person, it has a bit of a deep feel to it. It goes dark in certain areas. There's a bit of a pearl to it. It's a gorgeous color. Kyosho has outdone themselves with this body. It's absolutely stunning. And then you couple that again with the small details that they have, you know, the mirrors, you've got a really nice grille, you've got light buckets on the front and rear of the truck. You have this beautiful chrome bumper on here. You have this visor on top, which kind of helps protect the body a little bit as well. And you got these little plastic pieces on top here, which is like, you know, like skids to help protect the body in case of a rollover and all that sort of thing. It's just a stunning looking body, and I'll quickly take it off as well just to show you the insides of it. So you'll see here how the light buckets are done, and how the bumpers are actually mounted onto the body there. And then as we move over to the front, you can see there's these little rubber O-rings that are kind of holding the mirror in place. So if the mirror does take a bit of a knock, it's not going to just quickly snap off. There's a little bit of give there, which is kind of nice. And then you can see the front bumper there and the front LED lights as well. So of course the LEDs are not included with this, but you can get some, and obviously, you know, decorate the truck as you wish. So the chassis and everything else, as you can see, this is how it comes. Now we're going to start this off with the tires here. The tires obviously have a little bit of a unique tread pattern. Not so much unique. I mean, this is, you know, Monster Jam trucks. We've seen this sort of tread pattern before, but the issue with this particular tread pattern is that, yes, it looks scale, you can sort of relate to it and all that sort of thing, but it doesn't always grip very well on certain surfaces. So I think that this is going to do well maybe on like tarmac, maybe a little bit of dirt or mud or something like that, but I think if you're going to go and run it on some gravel like I plan to, it might slip and slide all over the place. The rubber compound does feel kind of soft. These aren't hard tires at all. They actually feel really nice. The foams also complement the tires quite nicely, so I don't have an issue with that. It's more the tread pattern that I think is going to limit where you're actually going to find some grip. So that's probably going to be your only issue. Now, having said that, you'll notice that this actually has really deep dish wheels, right? And I was a little bit worried about not being able to put aftermarket wheels on here, because the offset is so great that the wheels, whatever wheels I put on here, was going to, you know, obviously narrow the width of the truck, and then when you turn the wheels, it was going to rub on the body and all these sorts of problems. And that's not the case at all. I actually put some Louise, I put one Louise tire on here, which is an ST tire, which is a stadium truck 10 scale tire with a 1/2 inch offset. And the inside of the tire, you know, the distance from the inside of the tire to the body was pretty much the same compared to the stock one, and it fits on here no problem at all. There is one thing that you do need to keep in mind though, is that this doesn't use traditional wheel nuts to put the wheels on. It actually uses a M4 screw with a 2.5mm hex. So that's how these are actually mounted on. So it's not like you can just quickly bolt on some hex extenders or anything like that. It might require some modifications or something along those lines if you do want to do something like that. But yeah, the wheels will bolt on there, no problem. I'm pretty sure, you know, even 2.2-inch wheels will fit here without any issues. I used a 2.8-inch wheel with a low profile tire, which is the Louise ones, and they fitted fine. And they're around about the same size. You could probably use 10 scale monster truck tires, but I think they might actually be a bit bigger and could put some extra stress on your servo and so forth. But anyway, moving on to the suspension. Suspension isn't too bad, probably a little bit soft for my liking. Don't get me wrong, like I've driven this truck, you know, the video that I did for work allowed me to sort of drive it on 2S, so we went down to the skate park, we had a ball with it, and it actually drives really, really well. But the back end does sag a bit, and when you are jumping it, you know, the rear end kind of slaps the ground pretty hard. So you're probably going to want to put some extra preload spacers in the back here. You might even consider changing out some shock oil and, you know, sort of tuning it up if you are going to do some big jumps with this thing. But it does handle nice. It's not like the suspension is completely off. It's just a bit soft for the general basher. Moving on to the body posts, there is a couple of pros and cons here. Obviously the body posts are pretty decent. I think they're going to hold up for the most part, but the front ones are non-adjustable, as you can see there. So that creates a problem, number one. And number two is the back. Again, they do have a little bit of adjustment, but it kind of defeats the purpose of having them adjustable because, well, here's my scenario, right? What I wanted to do is, well, I wanted to keep this body in pristine condition. I don't want to wreck this body, and I wanted to use a you know, your typical sort of 10 scale pro line basher body. So this is the Ford Raptor, which is designed for like your Stampedes and so forth. The wheel wells actually match up perfectly, so this truck would fit on here without any problems at all, or this body rather. But I can't bring the lower posts, the rear posts rather, low enough for this thing to sit straight. So, and then of course I can't really raise the top one, the front ones either. So I'm gonna have to, I don't know, invent something, hack it up somehow, and work out a way that I can actually fit this truck body on here, because I don't really want to wreck the stock body. That's the whole idea, because I don't think the stock bodies are available in the country just yet. If they were, it wouldn't be so much of an issue. I'll just get a spare one and bash up the new one that comes with the truck. But yeah, it's just a little bit annoying. I kind of wish that these were slightly different in the way that they made them, just so that we could put different bodies on here. Moving on to the wheelie bar, you can see that it's quite an elongated wheelie bar, and you know, the angle of attack here is actually pretty good. This will hold a wheelie if you get a good enough grip in the rear tires. And then of course, that little piece that came in the bag, you can see here, you can remove the wheelie bar and then put this on in its place if you find that this is kind of getting in your way, or you're not really want to do a lot of wheelies. So that's one thing that you can do. I do believe that these wheels have actually got ball bearings in them, so they should roll quite nicely. It feels nice and solid. It's not adjustable though. That's probably one of the downsides. You can't like bring it down or anything like that. The power system, you'll see it is a 3652 4000 kV brushless motor with a 60 amp ESC. Does come with Dean's pre-installed. You have your receiver over here, and you have your steering servo just underneath this cover over here, and then you've got fixed links pretty much everywhere. Your toe link and the steering link there is all fixed. There is only just a little wire, kind of hard to see, that kind of links the wheels together, but it does slide underneath, so you can see it there, how that actually slides underneath there. Now, just going back a little bit, talking about this receiver. The receiver, as you can see, is fully exposed. It's not in a box or anything like that. And when I ran this for the work video, we actually ran it at the skate park and it was wet. And we did a full video and the receiver didn't fail on me. Now, I don't know if we just got lucky, but I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say that that receiver might actually be splash proof. I don't know, take that with a grain of salt. But like I said, I ran it through, you know, wet concrete, and I hit the odd puddle here and there, and the thing didn't die. So that's a positive sign. Of course, there are ways of waterproofing receivers like this, and you can probably modify something, stick a, I don't know, some kind of aftermarket receiver box on here and enclose everything. That's your choice to make, but yeah, just something to keep in mind regarding that receiver. Aluminium drive shaft running all the way through here. We've got our battery tray with some foam inserts on the base and a nice little Velcro strap just there. And then we've got a nice little foam block which is sticky taped down to the chassis. You can remove that if you're going to be using some slightly longer batteries. As it is out of the box, it will house, I think, most, standard size 2S packs, but if you've got something that's a little bit out of the ordinary, you can remove that foam to give you that extra room. And then underneath you'll see how the chassis is kind of laid out. Now originally I thought that this battery strap was actually going to be ripped to shreds after a few runs, but if you notice, they actually kicked up a little bit of a lip here on the chassis to protect the strap. So when the strap is actually down and holding a battery in place, you can see how they've done that to protect the strap and avoid things getting snagged there, and of course the strap getting the strap getting destroyed in a short amount of time. So not a bad little way that they've done that. Overall, this is a very simple car. There's a couple of adjustments here on the front A-arms. There's no adjustments on the shock towers for your shocks. You got some aluminium caps here for the shocks. They are plastic bodied, and of course you do have to use preload spacers. The diffs have been beefed up for the brushless power upgrade that they've done on this truck. And overall, it actually looks pretty decent. I'm really keen to see how this thing's going to hold up over time. As I said, I've only driven it once. Well, not this particular one, but I drove one just like it. I only driven it once for that work video, and I absolutely fell in love with the way that this thing drove and the power it had and how it looked and everything, which is why I got myself one. Now for this wish list, it's going to be really short and sweet. I've only got a couple of items that I want to add on here, purely because I've got very limited experience with the brand and with the truck in general, but there are a couple of things that I would like to see added on. Of course, one of the things that I covered during this unboxing was, of course, the body posts and how I wanted to put a different body on here. I think instead of including a spare spoiler and this little bumper piece that replaces the wheelie bar, it would have been nice to have some optional body posts included in the kit instead, so that we could run different bodies, because I can tell you now that there's going to be a lot of people out there that are going to preserve the original body and are going to want to run alternative bodies that they can trash on this truck. So it would be nice to have that as an option. Item number 2 is going to be a slightly different tune on the suspension. I don't necessarily have a huge issue with the suspension. I just think that it feels a little bit light, feels a bit underdampened, and if this is really supposed to be kind of like a semi-basher vehicle, it would be nice if they had tuned the suspension slightly differently, or perhaps it included some extra preload spacers, because I don't think the ones that they've given us are going to be thick enough, or they've given enough of them for us to really tune these shocks properly. And last but not least, it's just a reference to the tires. I would have liked to have kept the same pattern, but just cut some slots in the actual tires themselves, going long ways, and it would have scattered the pattern a little bit, and I think it would have given us better grip on a more variety of surfaces. The way that they've done it here, yes, it looks great. It looks a little bit more scale, but it's a bit unrealistic, really, to expect the tires to grip on a variety of different surfaces. So a slightly different tread would have made a huge difference. And that's pretty much it for my wish list on this truck so far. And just like that, we have come to the end of yet another unboxing. Be sure to check out the video description. I'll have links in there regarding the Mad Van VE, including where you can get one here in Australia. And leave me a comment in the comment section down below. I'd love to hear back from you guys. If you have a Kyosho yourself, do you have the Mad Van VE? How's your experience been with it? Did you manage to fit a different body on there? What mods did you do? Any feedback would be greatly appreciated. So be sure to touch base with me down in the comment section below. And that's it. Thank you all very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to hit that like button on the way out. Subscribe to the channel if you're new, and I'll be speaking to you all next time.